allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we don't,
No.
that's on me.
It's all you?
Yeah, that's my fault. I'll get it. I thought there was one over there, must have been the Parks one, that's my fault. Didn't even look, I was like, oh, she already put some out, good. But budget workshop, resolution 25-2, STC Hometown Days, fishing tournament, Be Well and Mercantile Paint. And we'll get these, so you have it and we'll put it in. We switched our router and modem, so all the printers are off. Might as well just start with the budget. This is the draft fiscal year 25-26 budget, totaling over $5.4 million. The general fund being $2,226,946. So just going through page one, property taxes, statewide inflation rate is about 3.1%. I know mine went up $122, I believe. I left the number the same because 3.1% of that is what, $16,000. Every year, as of current as of today, we have $54,211 in unpaid property tax, which we won't get from the county until June. So we've been putting it in the fiscal year budget, but not seeing the money until the next fiscal year. So I left it here, and we're gonna start tracking it a little bit better. So $543,535 for property tax. Our state revenue sharing went up a whopping 0.1%, an increase of $196, so $49,043. And that includes a public safety payment of $892. Our constitutional revenue sharing is at $212,000, $212,770. There is a possibility this can change, and an additional a whopping $754. So we don't want to spend it all in one place, but. As you'll see, there's the other federal grants, $1 million from the congressional appropriation we received from a bipartisan effort in Washington, D.C., signed by President Biden. And President Trump is honoring those past payments. He did put a freeze on them for a day, but received a lot of lobbyist calls from local municipal governments saying, you can't do, come on, help us out. Our refuse collection is the exact same amount that Mid-Michigan Waste Authority is going to charge us. Like I've mentioned in the past, we used to subsidize that account by tens of thousands of dollars. We weren't matching what they were charging us, so we got to revenue neutral in 2020, and we're gonna keep going. I think the payment goes up, I think it's $5 this year. I can't remember the exact amount. I think it's, what is it? $195 for the entire year. I think I was like, is that a lot? So I had to look and went through waste management of my own. I pay like $350, and I get less service, no recycling, and it goes up every month, which means I need to start shopping around. The transfer from major is $20,000 for the Fulton Hosmer project that we borrowed before we started saving really well. And undesignated fund balance, $100,000 just to cover additional costs for anything that we might not see. I don't foresee us needing anything crazy, but it's there. I could see this phase 2, the way that the federal government is making us go through SHPO and right away and resolution for this and that I could see us having to use some of that. Page 2, so in 2024, the Michigan Municipal League did a wage and salary survey. And we've known for many years, obviously Jenny, you worked here, Mike, you know what her paychecks look like. You know, Paul's gone through, DPW paychecks. We've never paid super competitively, but we were always super competitive in healthcare, offering the Platinum plan through Blue Cross Network. And we offer a pension system if you're with us for 10 years, where you contribute nothing at this time. Obviously, when I got here, we were 59% funded. We're now up into 75% range. The state subsidized most municipalities. We didn't need that. We raised our OPEB percentages from 5% to 38%. And so things are starting to teeter. We have a surplus fund that has over $1 million in it. So if anything happens, we can definitely cover our payments. And with OPEB, with the other post-employment benefits, you have Tito retiring, which helps. You have Don retiring, which helps, because our healthcare is based on age. So now we just went from, we lost a 60-year-old, a 58-year-old, and a 60-year-old, and now we've added, 24-year-old, and 23-year-old until she recently resigned. And that certainly brings it down. So we are. Even though our healthcare went up 11.2%, we're paying less than we did last year because of the age drop. So this gets us to a more competitive wage, not only pension and healthcare, for all employees. That's police, that's DPW, that's office. Retract, retain, this is one way to do it. When they look elsewhere, we're competitive. For instance, we have Officer Catherwood, who came over from Chesaning. Chief goes through the policing part, and I go through, what is your hourly wage request? And she was up here, and I'm like, oh, that's more than Chief makes. In my head, I don't say that out loud. And I'm like, so what were you contributing to your pension and your health care? Well, $200 and whatever a paycheck. And I'm like, were you paid bi-weekly or weekly? Bi-weekly. Okay, divide that by 2, take that off of I'm going to offer you here, which was 25 something. Oh, I don't know if I can do it. Well, let's crunch the numbers and get back to us. Last week she went and thanked Chief. She goes, my paycheck is actually more here than it is there, and I'm making $3 or $4 less an hour because you're not spending on your health care, because we are paying for that, because you're not spending on your pension, we are paying for that. Again, you have to stay 10 years to be vested, and she might have started over there in the MERS program, but this is where we've always offset. And a lot of times people don't understand that. And it's hard to explain unless you're in the system and you're benefiting from it. So you will see an increase in wages in health insurance, and this is why. This is how we keep people.
I called over to Chesaning and Birch Run today to see what they were paying their clerks and treasurers. I didn't check law enforcement, but Chesaning doesn't have a full-time clerk or treasurer. They have an administrator that's full-time, and he makes 21, starts out at 21, 25, and can go up as high as 25, 75. Birch Run has, for the clerk, it's as of July 1st, it's going to be 2050 because their fiscal year starts in July 1st. So right now they're making 1920, and the treasurer's making 1870, but she'll go up to 20. But the only difference in that, he said, is because one's been there longer than the other. Which is fair. Yeah.
You look at someone like Marguerite, who's been here for 19 years and doesn't make $20 an hour. So this gets her up to 20. It gets Lou up to 20. Obviously, the different time frame, but let's just start fresh. This puts Bart or Jason and chief, kinda at the same place. And chief presented a, police policy on steps that we can go over. We don't need it necessarily, but it's something we can review for the future, to keep us competitive, which it's hard to retain and retract officers anywhere right now. So it puts them up and it boosts Tyler and Scott up to, 22 an hour, which for them it's a 16-17% increase. Normally, you don't see over 3 to 4. This is like like they have a major union negotiating and bargaining for them. But it puts them in line with other communities. And now we're offering competitive wages and super competitive benefits. So there shouldn't be any complaints going forward, and every year we will analyze pension, OPEB, healthcare. I asked for, let's review the Blue Care Network Platinum, Gold, Silver plan. Where can we, if we have to cut costs, obviously again by losing the 2 elderly employees, we don't have to yet, but it's something that I'm always looking at. Hart didn't do anything this week. I'm looking at numbers all the time. And so this is a significant increase to a lot of people. Chief, it's a 1% increase, but he doesn't, he cares more about how do I keep people here versus what he needs. And so, Lou has a, master's degree, like she has options in accounting. So we're finally competitive, but it took us 4 years to get here. We had to save, we had to do, we've accomplished a lot. So I'm happy with this, and I hope you are too. It's still less than 25% of our total budget. When those numbers start creeping up, I start getting worried. So
Is Chief happy with where he's at?
yeah,
So he stays?
Yeah.
We're on this.
correct. Yep,
You
he's
know.
pretty happy.
I know your contract's not till later in the year, but is there a little bit of wiggle room where if the board felt you were doing a good job, that you could also get a pay increase? Because you haven't had one in years.
That's a discussion for another day. I'm happy to, I want to help others, and that's what I'm here to do.
We just gave you one a couple years ago, didn't we? When was the last one? It's been since I've been here.
2022,
Okay.
so it's been a little while. Brought in 2.6 million in grants. I know people don't think I write those, but I was asked last week, do you even write the grants? Because an employee of yours is saying you don't. I was like, yeah, like, why? And I'm like, it didn't even bother me. And then I'm driving home like, that congressional appropriation, that million, I did. I wrote the letter for Mick. I wrote the letter for Don. I wrote the letter for Benson. Like, okay, so the mill, okay, what about Safe Routes? Well, that was a $10,000 grant that we did with Michigan Health Alliance and the ISD. So it was Tina, myself, and Josh up at LaBouffe went after the $10,000 grant. And then, that was in 1920. Then in 22, we brought in the school. And then in late 23, when we needed engineering, we brought in Spicer. So I'm like, there's 1.2 that we did through the 3 of us. And I think of Harry S. Truman, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. But I've never been accused of, not doing anything. I'm like, wait a minute. So I'll take it. The TMF grant, I had a meeting, I looked at my meeting notes. Yep, that was mostly them, but I did meet with them and I drafted the application. So that 600, not gonna take credit for that. But anyway,
So is there some way then that we could somehow compensate you for
That
these
is-
grants that you get?
that is completely up to you guys. But let's keep going through this. So you will see increases in those.
Well, I'm sorry, I'd like to see if we can include that in the budget. I'd like to, I'd like to see it. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I just feel like you should be compensated somehow for the grants that you have. You've gotten us more grants than any other manager that I know of.
And that's
And I
why
think
this
you
budget is so large. There's millions of dollars that offset, and we're able to accomplish things because of those grants that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Is there some way we can include that somehow? I don't know what even an average might be if we, I don't know how the rest of you feel about it, but that's my thought.
Let's
I know
go
other
through this.
municipalities
Think
have
about it, and
done
we'll go
that.
through this.
Okay.
So wages are up, pension plan expenditures, you'll see that, and one of the things the auditor wanted us to do was put the liability where it belongs, so you'll see in the treasurer, column, bottom of page 253, there's 50,000 in pension plan expenditures because you have Marguerite, you have Deanna, and you have Deborah, what was her name?
Deb, yes.
Deb, yeah, Deb. You will see on page 4 in the police department, we have $115,000 in pension expenditures because of police officers that are still collecting, but I don't wanna skip too far ahead. Village hall and grounds on page 3 and uniforms and clothing allowance. Obviously, we don't have a bargaining unit anymore in the police, so we switched to their boot allowance, so that uniforms and clothing allowance could be used for their, a computer for them. The repairs and maintenance in village hall and grounds could be used for a computer. Chief's computer is not working as well as it should. We need it to upload videos from events, so that's something that he's really asking for. You go to page 4. Again, these are the wages for staff with the increases. It would have been a 10% increase for Skylar. For Michelle, I think it's 3%. And Officer Catherwood, we're leaving where she's at because she hasn't been here very long. It leaves us some wages for part-time. Ryan's doing it. He's out right now, so drive safely. He will pull you over.
Working like crazy on our street.
They had somebody
I
pulled
like
over
him,
this
I
afternoon.
do.
But you see the increase to health insurance. You see the decrease in health insurance in police. You'll see the capital outlay. Obviously, last year there was a vehicle involved. This year there's not, so that's $55,000 less. But still allows them to buy a truck box for their weapons, a body camera, a taser, some tires, and a vest and ammo. So you're still getting them the tools they need to do the job well and be effective. But at the same time, this is how the budget should be. You shouldn't, we get X amount of dollars every year, use it or lose it. Like, that is such a old school philosophy that I cannot stand.
Yeah.
Even my mother-in-law, who worked for Shiawassee County in the health department, oh yeah, every September we would go out and spend like $20,000 and buy new office equipment and computers because it would show that we needed the money. And I said, that is exactly why they are going bankrupt now. So I don't budget with that philosophy, and I will not. So this year, police will see a smaller amount in capital outlay, where DPW might see a larger in the coming years. Obviously, I gave you the capital improvement plan, which is a 6-year plan to review in March, but I wanted you to have time to look at it. Spoke with Chief Oliver and Superintendent Thurston and went through their wants and needs and wishes over time. The Parks Committee, we have ambitious goals in the 5-year park plan. So, and then we have the phase 1, phase 2, and then in year 2027, we're looking at huge investments, over $1.3 million in sewer, that I'd like to start tackling. So it's all strategy. It's the long game. It's nothing flashy this year. This is just a good, solid budget with grant money to offset last year's $3.8 million in water improvements. So that we'll be paying on for the next 20 years. So, so you'll see, Scott's doesn't change. I don't know if you've looked at his year-end review, but he basically pays for himself, and that's why I don't mind his work. Before we weren't getting that kind of service. So, the ecology donation continues. That's beautification day. That helps with chips and soil for them. DDA kicks in a little for soil now too. The transfer to majors for the water project. It's Rob and Peter pay Paul. We're transferring from the major or from water to general and general to water, but that's back when what we were doing. So the refuse collection is revenue neutral with MMWA. Parks and Rec, they had an ambitious couple of years with some help from the DDA. The kayak launch, the fishing pier, the playscape, the diamond dust, the new ball fields. This allows them to still have some capital outlay to maybe look at parking, fixing up the basketball court, maybe adding pickleball, maybe a donation. We're still looking at the Katzenberger Memorial tree canopy. Working with Saginaw Community Foundation this week. There is, like $9,500 in a village account over there. We added the old-fashioned Christmas money to get it to $10,000, so we can start working with that. Haven't talked to the architects since January 5th. I talked with Jason Katzenberger yesterday. We're still trying to move that forward, and you'll see in the capital improvement plan I put 25 every year to kind of go to that, but still allows for improvements at lumberjack and coal miners. The planning commission, the code review and we should finalize that this year. Obviously, we finished the last chapter last week. So now it's review, go through, clean copy to you for your review, comments, and then off to our village attorney to make sure everything's within legal realms. That said, that shouldn't take us more than a couple months to have it to you, and therefore all that might not be used, and we can push it back in the general fund somewhere, because we accomplished a lot of what we wanted to do in the last budget cycle. So that is your general fund. Everything that police need, wage increase for staff, and in the capital improvement plan, I'm looking at new computers for the treasurer and the clerk in the coming years, not just police first, so. We'll get to the major street. We have 5.41 miles of major streets in the village, 10.58 miles of local streets. So this is our Act 51 state shared revenue. So it includes 600 million in redirected income from the tax revenue and 113.6. This number has changed recently as Governor Whitmer had her budget presentation 2 weeks ago. Her state of the state is tonight, but it's 113.6 million in recreational marijuana tax revenue and 30 million for a local road program, which is part of something that kind of included already in the road fund. So you'll see the transfer from general, that's the interfund loan from the boat works for the asphalt for Fulton and Hosmer. We do have money for drainage in the appropriations for the drainage account. As Bart and I, or Mr. Thurston and I have discussed, every spring and every fall, we'd like to be more proactive on drainage, and call in city sewers every spring and every fall and hit the spots we know are problematic and suck them out, and maybe have them lines, swept or cleaned and keep the water flowing. So our non-motorized Act $51, it's a good area we could use for sidewalks, but obviously we have 1.2 million in sidewalks coming at the end of end of fall next year. So we'll try to do what we can this year, but up to from 2020 to 2024, over $212,000 in new sidewalks, over 863,000 in new roads in the village. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I assure you that is what has occurred. This allows routine maintenance, a little capital outlay for the improvements on major roads that we need, and puts money towards equipment for DPW staff. Allows some winter maintenance on their roads, overtime wages. We kind of split because they spend more time on our local streets, as we have 10.5 versus 5.4. This gives us a transfer to local roads so we can do more projects, and transfers back to the general fund that I already talked about for the Fulton and Hosmer. So that's your major streets.
Have you heard anything about the money we're supposed to get from the road millage fee?
We'll get there when we get to that account. Or you can tell us. I think you went to that meeting, correct? Or
No, I didn't go to
Okay.
the.
So local streets, we receive about $10,500 a month, or $128 out of the local program. So this is our revenue sharing for Act $51 from the state, $97,876. So not a ton to do local roads, enough to fix them up, a little bit of drainage, routine maintenance, traffic control, that is a racket. Some winter maintenance with some overtime wages, again, that's where they spend most of their time, but sets us up to be able to do things. So with the Safe Routes to School next year, and we'll get to the next page, which is the village street millage. So the county passed the millage 24-1, which increased our property taxes bring in about $90,000 based on our millage. And this will bring in another 90,000, so 180,000. And for a Safe Routes project, I'd like to go after the category B grant that we got for phase one, which is $250,000 from the state, but it's a 50-50 match, so we need $250,000. So this gives us enough with the local streets and our village street fund to pursue that, which would be nice to have all new sidewalks down Walnut, Maple, Ithaca, and new roads along with that. So that is the goal. No promises, but we'll keep applying. Boatworks Grant Fund, that is a Chris Newman specialty. It grabs about $1,000 a year in interest, and that's about it. So there's a little bit of money in there for, a $20,000 project here that we can borrow from, as long as we do an interfund loan and it's all on the record, and the auditor can see where every penny is going. So on to page 12, which is the Downtown Development Authority, which is quasi its own authority. Here's your opportunity to kind of have some say in what they do. They don't generate a ton in captured taxes, less than the local street millage. But again, they had, I don't know how you want to say this, I'm the executive director, but prior to getting here, they didn't do anything. They met the first Friday at 7:30 and had coffee and talked about what the village was like in the 1950s and the 60s. Which is really fun to listen to, and Bob Burns and Jim Delameister, great guys. Coffee was terrible. And then we have a newer group who wants to fix up town. We have our rental of our Goodrich building, which is over 21 years old, 27 years old, and the state, DMV, the Secretary of State is still there. They still email weekly about things they'd like to see fixed, we're happy to help. Obviously, you might see the coin shop retire in a few more years. Arnold Chiropractic filled up the rest, so in a good spot. But this year, because of their savings, they want to go out and do now. The state does audit. They are required to have 2 informational hearings. You have to post on your website what you're doing. You have to invite all the taxing jurisdiction, and so they want to use some fund balance. And they got a quote and approved to do from Saginaw Street from 52 all the way to Hosmer, which should happen this spring. We have, I think, $78,000. They have a facade grant already submitted for next month to fix the doors on the back of the library. I spoke with the owner of 3 of the shops downtown next to Tony's, who is looking at purchasing across the street an apartment complex, and want to know if he qualified and how much, and yes. And so this summer, I think we should see some movement on the buildings downtown. I won't say finally, but the person has 160 units currently, and just put in a bid for another 200 and didn't get it. So very busy, but so I get asked every day, like, what's going to happen? And he goes, I get asked every day too. And I said, okay. So they're looking at new banners that highlight some of our facilities. They're going to have a banner that points towards the kayak launch, the fishing pier, Coal Miners Park, the farmers market. They want more bulldog pride, so they wanted to get some bulldog banners. They want to tell people kind of wayfinding signage where the library would be. And nothing for drones this year at this time. I hope that we can fundraise for that. But also there's community projects, so we'll see what they want to do. And I think it'd be nice to have some buy-in from the private sector if we're going to do anything with the drone show this year. But it has not been brought up. So that is your DDA budget that they reviewed and approved of last month, February 7th. Sewer fund, page 13. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at sewer upgrades in 2027 to the tune of $1.3 million. As of right now, the big equipment fund for them is $26,000 for a pump, just in case they go down. So nothing too crazy, but as you recall, in January we didn't touch the sewer rates because they're in a good spot, and we haven't been spending out of that fund. We've been utilizing completely the water fund for the 5.2 and now the $1 million project. So $6.2 million in 2 years in water, which is nuts. So this is just more of the same for that fund. Operations and maintenance, no huge expenditures. You know, obviously equipment rental is for them to purchase equipment. Repairs and maintenance is just in case. Don't want to use that. Obviously it's a lesser amount, but no change in sewer rates. Which leads us to the water fund. And we did a estimate on water funds based on 11,000 gallons of usage, which is the average usage throughout the village and what am I trying to say? The outside the village rates, which is double the rate. So the average usage is 11,000, but you know the minimum bill is at 5,000, which the new minimum bill is $172.05 per quarter. Outside the village is $239.24, and that's when they talk about going down Ithaca, that $239 a quarter minimum. Okay, so yearly. Okay, 10 years. Does that project pay for itself or put us closer to where we can contribute? So that's what I look at. So water fund. Water charges in $615,000. Water charges outside the village, $137,000. This includes a transfer from general for $1 million, which is the congressional appropriation to begin phase 2, which is a little bit of the old side of town, Cherry, Spruce, East Bell. What else am I missing? A little bit of water. And so continues the work that shouldn't be happening until 2028, but because of the grants, we're able to start in 2025. So 3 years ahead. Obviously, we'll have the bid opening tomorrow for the TMF grant, which will help us identify all the service lines in town, an additional 354. So then we are done now. We'll have them all GPS located, photos, tracked in a map, online in the GIS system, so there's no maps, there's no questions, we know exactly where every line is, and if there's lead or galvanized or unknown, we have to replace 5% over every year for the next 20 years, which by the end of this project, we'll know where everything is and we can target that area. So maybe phase 3, when we're supposed to go here, if we know this is all lead, maybe we're going towards the lead or galvanized. But this also includes our payment to phase 1, which is $259,975, which is principal and interest, and also $20,000 towards Fulton and Hosmer, where we started our water project with new main, new hydrants, new roads. Which brings us to the last fund, which is the equipment fund, which is, I think currently has $65,000 in undesignated fund balance. Obviously this, you see here, we're paying on the dump truck that we purchased for $144,000. This is $28,000. We have 2 more years after this to pay for that, I believe. And the interest on the dump truck, $733. So, just going back on the equipment fund, when I got here, they had a 30-year-old dump truck. They had no tires. They're all worn. So now we have a new dump truck, a new backhoe with a snow blade so they can reach in. We have a new DPW truck, a new loader. I said loader, right? Anyway, we're giving them the equipment rather than sitting on it, and we're creating a fund that is sustainable. But at the same time, it's not flush. We're like the normal family. We had to pay for it over time because
Right.
if we want to save every year, we can do that. But we needed it now. So in the capital improvement plan, they have a wish list. Very expensive one. I think they're over to the tune of $400 and some thousand. But we're going to have to take 6 years and look at it every year and analyze what the fund has and where we can try to find that. And if we can get a loan from the bank at a low interest rate or a no interest rate, or when it's worth doing, we'll do that. But make sure they have the tools to do their job. There's nothing worse than, hearing that you're the reason that they're not successful, because that's not leadership. So, gas and oil is up. We're hoping it goes down. But these are all funds, and this is the draft budget, and I'm open to council adjustments. or if you wanna see any documentation on where I found these numbers, I'm happy to supply that as well.
The only question I have is for page one, it says $2,000 for conferences and workshops for the village council. Could that money be better suited towards the police department for instead of they're getting was it 1,500?
Conferences and workshops, membership and dues, conferences and workshop, the $1,000 for the police.
Yes, I'm sorry. They're only getting $1,000.
Okay. We could absolutely, you wanna make that 2 and this one 1, or make this one 500 and move it over? So I normally go
open
to,
for discussion. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if anybody plans on going to anything this year.
I think it's just general, they've always, it's there if we need it, but if we don't
Yeah.
use it, then another department can absorb it.
and
It's
and if
we've
you
done
see
it
something you
past.
wanna go to, like, hey, the MML's having this conference, and that's where, I know Kathy's gone to one, and, you know, we paid for the conference, but not the hotel room. It was, happened to be in Traverse City, I think at the Bear, you know? Ooh, I'd like to golf there, but I can't afford it.
Yep.
So, obviously, great question. Chief does, you know, he was in conference yesterday. But they're part of a consortium too, that they get kind of discounted rates on a lot of it, but I could certainly see that. Wanna go 2 for 1?
I mean, I'm okay with that.
I like that.
And I'd add on the constitutional revenue sharing, you know, that they used to have the public safety payment, they've already squashed that idea and turn it into they call it the 3 formula payment calculation, which is taxable value, weighted population, and yield equalization. So, they squashed that already and then moved it into this new account to name it something, and that's where we might see that extra $754. Any comments, sir?
Job.
I'm hoping for our MERS annual evaluation next week. It's normally the first week of March, which kind of shows you where we're at. You know, we were really aggressive at it for 4 years, and then the state goes and subsidizes everywhere else. Even managers that knew they shouldn't take it are like, I'm not turning down $600,000 to get me up to 60% funded. So once I saw that, I was kind of disheartened. You know, you do the right thing and pay your bills and try to plan, and so now I'm hoping they do that for OPEB, and then I'm going after it. And hey, we'll take whatever to get us to 60, but we were really aggressive with that. Surplus fund is doing well. I think 1.2 million in there. But obviously we have, you know, we have liabilities we have to pay for. I don't think Tito's hit yet. Indiana hasn't hit yet, but they're coming. And the last of the old system, just so you know, is Marguerite and Jason. So you will spend more to MERS on the 10 of us per month. You know, our wages will be $27,000, let's just say, and theirs will be 9,000 and 7,000. And then for us, you'll pay 2,000 of that 27, but for them, you'll pay the full 7 and the full 9, because they got into the B4 system back in the day. Which, you know, my mom has it, good for her.
Yeah.
But we're in the C1, you know, the multiplier is 1.5. We gotta work a little longer. If you think of anything you'd like to see changed, or you wanna know where I pulled numbers, do not hesitate. I'm happy to, this is what I think is fun. This is my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, you're good at it. You're really good at it.
appreciate you raising the question about your compensation. You said it's 2022 since you received a pay change. Cost of living since 2022, I'm not looking it up right now, but I'll estimate it's 11-12%. So, right, the buying power of your paycheck is down, significantly. So, on a basic value of money, you've had a pay decrease of 10-12%. So, just for consideration, that there's a reason. I appreciate hearing that staff over a 4-year period have had wages increase to a point where you feel grateful. It sounds like, yeah, glad we've raised people's wages. Good. It's appropriate to pay people for the work that they're doing. So I don't know where the money comes from. Like, I don't know how you move the money around the budgets and the funds and all that sort of stuff. But I guess for the village council, that's the math that I hear is the village manager has received a pay cut of 10% since 2022, or maybe 2023 if you think that it would have held for 2022, right? But that's the math, and it's real. That's real money. So for what it's worth.
Absolutely.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I gotta pay this guy? Jeez.
You paid him before he got here. didn't
Yeah,
you?
if
why
you
he
see me
said
go
that.
outside,
Yeah.
I was looking for Ed.
That's why he was peeking when I walked around the corner.
So, in 2026, not 2025, the Mid-Michigan Waste number, the annual cart per household is $201.56. So, I think this year is last year 196, 198, and it goes up to 201, which we're pretty lucky. There are other communities that are paying way more within the authority, even in our zone. So.
I would like to see something for Heartland where either
Absolutely.
a percentage of, wage increase or compensate him, like I said, he's brought in so many grants for us since he's been here.
And he's been fiscally responsible, getting our employees the tools that they need to do their jobs without breaking the bank.
You need a bigger car.
He'll be getting a van pretty soon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Looks like me driving in high school. Coming
Baby
to school,
doesn't
my
fit in the
Chevette.
back anymore.
I'd take the front seat out and sit in the back.
Do you know of any other municipalities that have done, like compensated their manager for getting grants, or
You could do percentage
what
of
would
grants.
What would you like to see?
You could do, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. It's whatever you guys are most comfortable with.
Why don't you come up with some ideas and we'll look at.
Perfect, I thought you never.
Okay.
I haven't even thought about it. This year is all about trying to get the employees where they belong, so.
Well, could you come up with something and bring it to us at the March meeting?
I could certainly do something. I used to have comparables on my phone, I don't know if I still have them, but.
Needs like a town and country or something.
They
I
make
got
those,
back
they're
to the car.
Pacificas now.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
They're all-wheel drive Pacificas and they don't look terrible,
Oh.
but I will not have one in my driveway.
So are you saying then that Lucretia and Marguerite will go up to $20 an hour? Is that what you're saying?
I am.
Okay. I was kind of hoping for maybe 21. Just my personal opinion.
Well, the good news is it's all in an Excel spreadsheet, or then changing the numbers is rather easy. Then I gotta go through every account that we just went through and change, which is fine. I know she's looking at me, isn't she? I mean, 1% percent of the 2024 grants would be, I think, appropriate. And you can spread it out over 3 years if you'd like. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but. Or we could just do,
And how much would that be?
I don't know, I mean, it's 2.6 million, but,
Just
yeah.
think about it and get some things, and we're kind of putting you on the spot right now,
Right.
so
It's
just.
okay. Alright, Resolution 25-2 is in front of you. There's some poor public policy, in my own opinion, passed last session that was sat on by the new controllers of the House, and last week at midnight they came to an agreement over earned sick time. House Bill 4002 Earned Sick Time Act, which I think is something like 1 hour for every 35 hours worked. We are over 10 employees, that counts everybody. It doesn't count Zoe, it doesn't count Bill, it doesn't count Greg. I talked with Scott today because of his hours. He is okay receiving 1 hour for every 2 months because he's a 3 to 4 hour a week guy. And I said, you do come to meetings, you know, add an hour there, so he's okay with that, but we need to post this law, both in English and in Spanish, in the DPW barn, public safety, and as well as our office. So this is the compromise they came up with, and so this is us adopting employee poster notice under Paid Medical Leave Act PA 338 of 2018, just to show that we are following the laws. Same as we have to have labor law posters in every area as well, so people know their rights, and now is a good time to do this. It, you know, catches us between meetings, but at least we can move forward, so. They are still updating the Spanish poster. I do have a copy of it, but apparently they're making changes to that, so I can't read it, so I can't tell you what the changes are gonna be. Don't tell my Spanish teacher, Senorita Walquist. But this just is approving what the legislature did and enacted on November 24th.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 25-2, adopting an employee poster notice under Paid Medical Leave Act PA 338 of 2018.
It is 25-4.
25-4?
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
I'm
we
sorry.
did 3 last
25-4.
meeting.
My mistake.
Sorry, 25-4.
Support.
Roll call.
Paul Jenderski is absent. Jamie Kendall,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff,
Yes.
Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
Item C, hometown days. So last week, you approved the Parks and Recreational Special Event Permit application for Rebel Magnolia, which is gonna bring about 1,400 people to the village. This one expects to bring 300 plus guests. They are expecting a car show, vendors, food trucks, and kids' activities. So they've paid the $50 application fee. They just state on here that they wanna use the pavilion. Obviously, Rebel Magnolia uses the whole front of the park. This doesn't exactly state where they wanna be, if it's just the pavilion and the parking lot. I mean, is it just a $60 for the pavilion? And see how this year goes. The recommendation from the Parks Committee is, let's see what they do. If we think that they're raising a ton of money, maybe, ask them for, to pay for at least a security deposit for cleanup in case DPW has to hit their garbage cans and pick up in the park. I bring it to you for discussion and approval. Obviously, it's a public park. Bringing people to town always benefits the entire town. Or I shouldn't say always. Normally, you'll see a benefit, whether it's softball, baseball, Frank selling out of water and Gatorade, whether it's these events that people go out to eat afterwards. So, just for you, the next 3 are all park-related events, to see how you want to handle them. I think being fair but not equal is wonderful, and I believe that we have always in the past, this group included, given preferential treatment to local vendors versus, Rebel coming from out of town. For instance, the parks, the baseball and softball, I think we charge them $25 a day for tournaments, when they're charging teams $580 to just enter a tournament. In some tournaments, they have 17 to 20 teams. So there's, something we need to discuss with going forward parks-wise. They do have 3 scheduled tournaments. So the parks are getting used. So we have April 12th, you have the Easter egg hunt from the DDA and a park cleanup for Little League after. First weekend of May, you have your first Little League tournament on the weekend, and then you have Rebel Magnolia right after that. So things are moving. Obviously, this is September. You have another one, Jim Bott's hosting a fishing tournament in May. And then you have Be Well in June that wants to have a walkathon at the park with some food trucks, kind of promoting their Be Well race at the YMCA in Saginaw in September. So for Jim, it's just the pavilion, that's $60, so you can easily approve that. The walkathon, just approve the food trucks if you want, and then for the hometown days, which I don't know which year this is for them, I think it's the 5th year. It'll be the first year at the park to kind of see what kind of event it is and go from there. But, pavilion rental, like a family reunion, I'm not coming to you for this, but I know this could be huge and could be messy, and we've had problems in the past with the park not getting picked up, so.
What was the charge for when they used downtown? Was there charge?
Nothing.
Nothing. But we still had DPW taking care of trash and.
Right.
Yep.
So just pavilion rental and see what happens, because we don't know anything where they're gonna park the cars. Are they using the lines? Are they going into the park? Food trucks?
Like that, just like you said, this year, go on Parks recommendation, let's see what happens and see if it turns into, is it a pavilion or does it turn to,
The whole park.
if it turns into that, then we know for the following year.
Okay.
That's in my opinion.
As long as they're aware that it
Yeah,
could,
right.
could increase next
Yeah.
year.
She messaged on Sunday, we did my thing and get approved, and I said we didn't have a quorum, I'll be in touch, so this is a conversation she knows is coming. But I did ask her, I said, yeah, no problem, I'll take that to the parks board. Normally the fee is this, would you guys make a profit? She's like, not really, we only charge our vendors $10. I'm like, there it is, whereas the other event, I think the vendors are $100 to even get in. So there's a little, and then they charge $5 per person to get in a public park, which is just, cool, which it's legal according to our previous municipal attorney. So you go with that recommendation?
We need to make a motion. Okay. Make a motion to accept, the special permit application of, St. Charles Hometown Days.
I'll support.
Need a roll call for that?
Roll call.
No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
We'll vote no, because I voted no for the park commission too, so.
Fishing tournament is just to discuss, Jim Bott is looking to start a first annual fishing tournament. I think I wrote bass fishing tournament, I don't know if there's even bass.
It's a bass.
It
It's
is bass?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone was like, there's not even bass in that river, I'm like, I guess I should have asked, maybe it's a pike.
I think they're gonna allow multiple areas, like you can go to the Shiawassee River, there's multiple parks you can, place you can go besides the band, I think, on his
Okay. I
flyer.
just wanted to make you aware of that, could be a great event. Obviously, you've had sucker fishing in the past, this might be the new one. He did go to the DDA, he is on the DDA board now, looking to bring food trucks in, looking for approval for food trucks on that day at the park.
I know he said it's 100% payout. It's 3 age groups. But
Approval to use food trucks in the park that day?
I'll make a motion.
I'll support that.
Which, if they park in like a spot, it's not a big deal, but I know they go up into the actual park and sometimes the walkers aren't the happiest, but
Does the Wolverine still do the soccer tournament in the spring?
I
Or
think
did that
the,
kinda?
I saw it advertised somewhere.
The Racing with the Saints, I thought took it over.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yeah, they did.
They did, okay, cause that's, I thought it used to be the Wolverine, but then there was someplace out of Chesaning that was doing it for a couple years too, so.
Mm.
We had a motion
Jennifer, I think Jenny motioned.
Yeah, I made a
Darcy-
motion.
And I
Darcy
supported
seconded.
that.
All those in favor?
I,
Those opposed?
And last of the parks part is, so Saginaw County Health Department wants to host the Be Well Saginaw walk on June 26th. They want to bring 1 to 2 food trucks to the parking lot, but nothing confirmed yet. They want to promote, they have a Be Well race at the YMCA in Saginaw in September. So they think if they have the walk and encourage community and families to come to the walk, maybe they'll enter the 5K, 10K in the next month. So again, want food trucks, they're just using the trail. But I do get calls on weekends, why is this food truck allowed here, who said they could park here, and so this is why I come to parks and I come to you, so, oh, this is approved at this meeting, at this date, in the public meeting, so that, you know, we have some validity and backing in what we're doing.
need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion
Two,
to allow the
allow
food
the
trucks,
food-
or the Be Well Community Walk on June 26th.
I can support that too.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
and lastly, we use several banks, as, you know, your money's only insured up to $250,000. We do have an account, a savings account at Mercantile, that we need to close. It is currently making 0.1% interest, and by moving this money from the savings to a money market, we will switch to 4.4% interest.
Hmm.
So I need it in the minutes that somebody made a motion to close the savings at Mercantile and open a money market at Mercantile.
I'll make a motion to close the savings account at Mercantile and move the money to a money market at Mercantile Bank.
I'll support.
Roll call. And money one?
Paul Jenderski's absent. Jamie Kendall,
Yes.
Michael Nesbitt,
Yes.
Edgar Titoff,
Yes.
Kathy Harris,
Yes.
Darcy McSwain,
Yes.
Jennifer Rosser Nesbitt.
Yes.
Public comment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Okay.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.